Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video. Thanks, let's begin. He ain't a pretty sight, that's for sure. The Child Eater. This is not Brian G. Barry's first book per se, but it is the oldest one he has on Amazon, coming out in January of 2021. The plot: Albert Walker is a sick man. He's not disease-ridden per se, just mentally unstable. However, there is a long-term illness within him. A curse. Once he escapes from the confines of a mental hospital, he's back doing what he does best: eating people, especially those delectable children. For a 100-page book, less than 65 if you read the Kindle, this novella packs a lot into it. That is a pro and con. Details about characters and their environments are done beautifully, but there are loose ends that never get resolved. The mind of the killer and his past are explored, while other things end too abruptly. For every great thing, there is a decent thing in this book. This book is anything but bad. In fact, seeing how it's an earlier effort from the author, it's downright inspired. At the start, one does not think that Albert will be contained for long. It's pretty obvious. We are introduced to characters outside the hospital that we know will be integral to the story later on. Still, they could have just been a family visiting a loved one who is mentally unwell and in the hospital, and it would have probably been a more condensed story, but then we wouldn't get the awesome carnage outside the hospital, as well as the eerie note this book ends on. My main issue with this book is that certain characters should have been explored more, and others possibly even omitted. We didn't need a second family's son to stay with the first family. I get it, it's pretty cool to have an older friend who likes to show you scary movies, but we definitely needed to explore the doctor and the detective more. Still, this book does make you uncomfortable. Not only is it extremely graphic and it doesn't beat around the bush, but sometimes it's downright spooky. There's a scene that actually inspired the thumbnail for this video, where two kids are playing on a basketball court, and Albert comes out of the shadows, asking them, "Have you seen my dog?" He does not have a dog. The book plays around with what Albert really is, never fully admitting it from either character or the author himself. The detective does make reference to a similar universal monster that Albert reminds him of. For the characters, we have Albert Walker, the Beast of Juvaldin. He is our titular killer. He is described as having the ability to mentally control others through telepathy, to, kill themselves. He has long, black, scraggly hair, and is around 7 feet tall. He's a force not to be messed with. The kind of man you cross the street to avoid. Detective John Miller is introduced much later in the book. It's after Albert escapes from the hospital. He's a man in his mid-40s who doesn't believe in monsters, until he sees one cross the road with a child in its grasp. Nurse Irene Wilson at first seems to be drawn to Albert, somewhat infatuated with him. She sees behind the scraggly, disheveled, and gnarly appearance and finds a handsome gentleman. However, that is most likely mind games from Albert, telling her, "Oh, I'm really a good guy with great looks." She assists in the hunt with the detective to find Albert and to put him down. Dr. Grant is in charge of Albert. He secretly wants to know why and how he does what he does. Kill and change. He wants to become him, a hairy horror. Then we have the Combs family. Thomas Combs is an unfaithful husband who is always arguing with his wife, Stephanie, who has been a bit moody lately, but there is good reason for that. It's a bit of a surprise, but that leads to a flayed fate. Michael and Macy Combs are Thomas and Stephanie's children. They, along with their friend Robbie, love to watch cheesy creature flicks. They watch one called Ghost Shark. That is actually a real movie, but in this book it's different beyond the title. They see Albert outside their window in another spooky scene. Nathan and Jill are Robbie's parents and don't serve any purpose in the climax. They could have been omitted. Even Robbie could have been omitted. But Jill does have this purpose in the story. Well, in Thomas and Stephanie's relationship, which makes a certain reveal all the more heartbreaking. Both groups of characters are connected by the end in one way or another. No, not everyone meets everyone, but their storylines do cross paths. Let's get into why they don't all meet up. The gore! We get grisly feastings, some heads ripped off, and a scene quite similar to Anthropophagus that I cannot show you because YouTube will kill me. They'd have my balls, not Brian's balls. Needless to say, it's graphic. The attacks on humans are vicious. There are a couple of massacres, one in the hospital and one in the woods. To Albert, dispatching of people is as easy as slicing butter. That, on top of his mind control powers, makes him pretty much indestructible. You'd have to get him off guard. For the proposed film score, I had trouble trying to figure out who I was going to suggest, but Roku Banos, who composed Evil Dead 2013, I feel would be a really good choice, given his work on the Evil Dead requel reimagining. He knows how to be creepy yet brash with aggressive violin and harsh horn work. The sound of a siren in the background, much like in Evil Dead 2013, would really be a nice addition to the story too. For the more shocking scenes, like, "You ate my boy," no need for a quieter, more subtle soundtrack here. Overall, this is a strong effort. The Child Eater knows how to disturb you. It's a very quick story, but packs a lot in there. I would love to read a sequel where Nathan and Jill go out into the woods to try to stop and kill Albert, because they were trying to avenge people that were close to them. Also, explore more of Albert's past. Maybe have flashbacks to his first killings. I see so much potential with this character, and I'd love to read a longer book with him in it. The climax does end abruptly, but it leaves you off with an eerie, uneasy feeling that makes a chill go down your spine. I'd say definitely check out The Child Eater. As long as you can handle children being eaten, you'll be fine. This reads like a 70s pulp horror novel, and adds enough folklore in there to keep you eating it up while wanting more. Overall, I give The Child Eater a 2.5 out of 5. It was almost a 3. Certain things needed more beefing up and changing, but solid book overall. Thank you all for watching, and Lion Brian Gatto, the Horror Shark.
Giving the usual shoutouts to my Patreon supporters. If you would like to support me on Patreon or join the channel as a member, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. If you want to join the channel as a member, hit the join button under the video. Both have similar perks. You'll get early access to videos, shoutouts, as well as even some collaborations depending on how much you give a month. Join us.
Make sure to hit that notification bell to be notified every time I make a new video, and as always, subscribe. Blah blah.